So I've spoken about GPS tracking systems, cinemas, ride shares, but never in my wildest imagination did I think I would be talking about church. But we've crossed a year with the COVID-19 pandemic, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to show how a local church right here in Trinidad has gone above and beyond in mitigating the spread of COVID-19. So when a friend told me that San Fernando Open Bible, or First Church of the Open Bible, was having drive-through church services, I had to go. The last time I went to a drive-through was K-Donna, and the last movie I saw at K-Donna was Toy Story 1. And I completely, totally missed experiencing movies and theater in that sort of outdoor ambience under the starlight, within the safe, cozy environment of a vehicle. So when I heard about Drive-Thru Church, I was like, this is definitely something I need to check out. So we're in San Fernando and the journey begins here. So if we zoom in on the map, we'll see that this service was actually held in San Fernando at Oasis Garden Terrace. So I would have entered Oasis from this side, which is Circular Road, driven up and made my way into this parking lot. And based on the map, I think that I was here in terms of where my car was parked. And there's going to be a screen, the map doesn't show it, and this is where the church service, the stage area was, where the preaching and the worship and everything else was done. I think there were cars parked on top here also during the service. So this is the screen just sharing some COVID protocols, and right after I parked my car, an usher came to my window and served communion in this disposable container. So we were told to tune in to 88.5 FM in typical drive-through style to accentuate the sound that was coming through their PA system. They had a good PA setup, but this just helped make the experience that much more comfortable and alive. So as worship started, some people opted to stay in their vehicles and some people opted to come out of their vehicles. Though while out of their vehicles they wore their masks, but in a parking lot setting, social distancing is naturally maintained and you were just free to worship in whatever way you liked. So the outdoor screen mirrors what is live streamed on YouTube, and for this time of day the quality on the outdoor screen is pretty good in the bright lighting conditions, so definitely not missing out on anything there. So it's communion time and time to peel the top film off of the container to get the bread, and getting some difficulty doing this one-handed peel the bottom to get to the wine.
Speaking from the book of Haggai, and I just want to read these passages to highlight certain things about this book and what is the issue, what was the problem with the people in that day in their relationship with God. And he said, in the second year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, in the...
Look at the difference it makes when you use or don't use the radio station. I'm gonna mute and unmute my radio for you to see.
Who say, these people say, the time is not come, the time that the Lord for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste.
Car
God
horns are
has been
just such a
good to
novel way to
me.
agree with the pastor.
God has been good to me.
That was fun.
Wow. Isn't that beautiful? God is a good God. So he's blessing us.
So the service lasted under 90 minutes, and this is a communion service. And at this point, I'm just waiting to be ushered out of the parking lot. So this information probably needed a little bit of updating because I actually exited behind Sung's Great Wall back onto Circular Road. So just to remind you, churches, religious bodies, temples, mosques, those sorts of religious gatherings still have to ascribe to the Ministry of Health's COVID protocols with specific reference to worship services. So that document, June 2020 document, is listed in the description box below. You could go check it out. But you see, these guidelines were really written for in-house or within a building type setting. So they talk about ventilation, they talk about physical distancing, and that's all well and good. So with respect to physical distancing, a 36 square foot box essentially should separate each member of the congregation. So that's taken into consideration the 6-foot physical distancing guideline that we know. But interestingly enough, when you think about drive-throughs and the fact that you're going to spend a lot of time in your cars, your vehicle essentially becomes like a mini bio bubble. So in addition to parking spaces allowing for that 6-foot distance between people, there's an added barrier, an engineering controller, just like a barrier of protection, isolation, if you would, separation between members of the congregation when they stay in their cars. And yes, I would have mentioned that some persons chose to come out of their vehicles, but again, because vehicles are parked, it allows naturally for spacing. You will be spaced out. If you stand to the front of your vehicle and somebody else stands to the front of their vehicle who's parked next to you, it's going to end up being 6 feet or even more. So with respect to sanitizing procedures, when you think about an in-house church, you're going to have doorknobs and handrails and other high-touch surfaces, chairs, tables. But in this case, if you stayed in your vehicle the entire time, you literally touched nothing. The only points of contact you would have had were to receive the emblems, the communion emblems, and to place your money in an offering basket. And the persons who were on the other end, whether giving you the communion or receiving the offering, were masked up and they had gloves. So the same sanitizing procedures that they would have adopted even in an in-house service still applied for them. And naturally, for washroom facilities, though I didn't use the washroom at the Oasis, you would have to maintain your sanitizing procedures throughout the service for that. And what I like about these protocols is that on page 9, I believe, they actually make allowances for outdoor venues and really emphasize having natural ventilation. So in essence, outdoor venues with natural ventilation are the gold standard compared to indoor services with AC and all of that. So I want to talk a little bit about interaction between people with both services. Now, there are 2 services that happen on a Sunday afternoon, a 5 p.m. and a 7 p.m. But due to the fact that they cut short their 90 minutes by a fraction, it gave them that much more time to fully clear out the parking lot. And the thing is, not only the time allowed for it, the teamwork, the car park attendants, it was like clockwork, just staggering the cars and directing the traffic out. And even the exit of the Oasis was not the same as the entrance. So there literally was a one-way flow of traffic throughout your entire experience at the Oasis. And I really like the fact that this mirrors what a lot of religious services have tried to do. Most of them would only have one entrance and one exit depending on how the building is made up. And sometimes people are interacting. First service, people who are exiting interact with people who are coming in for a second service. But in this time, in addition to having containment within vehicles, not even the cars are interacting with each other. Page 11 of the Ministry of Health guidelines talks about offering, and they suggest that offering be collected with stationary, I guess I'm assuming standalone receptacles. I mean, that introduces a security concern, and the fact that people have to all queue and line up to get to this receptacle or this box. Social distancing, physical distancing is going to diminish, also depending on, your building, what have you. But the drive-through setting, ushers came to your window, which is great. I don't see it happening any other way like the guidelines do. But I want to mirror that with in-house settings. And I can tell you, my church in particular does not have a stationary area to drop your offering off when that time comes, because that's how things were done pre-COVID, and there were long cramped up lines to get to that point. So it's really much more efficient, even for in-house services, for an usher to pass around, given that they have manpower to do that, for an usher to pass around and collect the offering. So on page 10, the guidelines draw reference to communion. And like with offering, the Ministry of Health's guidelines suggest that communion be served from a central stationary location. Now, there are so many Christian denominations, and pre-COVID, that was done for some of them. But I think in this instance, specifically with the drive-through setting, as you entered and your car was parked, an usher came and gave you the disposable emblems to just hold on till that time in the service. So, I mean, apart from not being interrupted at that time, they saved a lot of time by doing it when you entered. I just think overall, even with in-house services, it makes sense also for an usher to come to you and to serve you the emblems. But I mean, if we want to be a little more nitty-gritty with the actual serving of the emblems, the usher, the elder, the server, whatever you call it in your church, needs to sanitize their hands. They need to have on gloves, and a decision needs to be made if the congregant takes it from the tray or if the server takes one and hands it over. So that's something that I've seen being battled with different, depends on which church you go to, but it's definitely something to think through and pay attention to. So here's one thing I did not notice about Drive-Thru Church. There was no temperature screening and there was no contact tracing. Now, given the context of a drive-through service, I don't really think it's necessary, because if you adhered to the guidelines and you stayed within your car for the entire duration of the service, your contact with anybody else apart from the usher giving you the communion and somebody else collecting the offering was minimal. So it was so refreshing to see like teamwork at play. I mean, having to do that for 2 services and then probably coming early to prep, that takes a certain level of dedication. But the fact that the parking lot attendant is really efficient at positioning you in the right direction, after he guides you, another usher who is serving communion comes to you and serves you communion. Not too long after the offering is announced, someone comes to you. All of these little things, the diligence in these little things cumulatively just makes this service really, really efficient. It was full worship, full sermon, full everything in under 90 minutes. So I'm here thinking about how long will we have to live under this new normal? You know, what are the things that are going to stay? Are masks going to be a thing probably 2 years from now, even though we have a vaccine and perhaps we've all been vaccinated? Are physical distancing markers in public places going to remain? I think hand sanitizer might remain at most places. I don't think they'll be scanning for fevers at every business place once everyone or most people have gotten the vaccine. But drive-through church needs to stay. I mean, apart from the fact that it just takes the pressure. I mean, some people feel pressured to attend like a big service. They're intimidated by crowds. It was a casual atmosphere. You could come dressed, relaxed, and just enjoy church within the privacy of your own vehicle. And I mean, let me stick a pin in there and say that it wasn't only for people with vehicles. There was an area separate and apart with physically distanced seats that if you didn't drive, you could sit there in a nice outdoor breezy environment and take in the service in the exact same way. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it encourages you to experience church in a new way. I hope it's definitely something that will stay. And if you found value in this video, you like the content, you want to see something else, hit the like button, drop me a comment, let me know what you think. So thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. And until next time,